Hi everyone, my name's Lily. I am the book reviewer behind Utopia State of Mind, and today I'm going to be chatting about all things Ali Hazelwood. So, if you weren't watching some of my earlier videos, I was talking about how in 2024 I want to do more kind of deep dives into a specific author. Ali Hazelwood is one of my picks, but I also want to talk about Katie Roberts' books, also talk about Emily Henry books. So the idea and what is the purpose behind these deep dives? So I guess the purpose to me is that I get to talk about looking at an author's body of work, not only historically to see kind of how the author grows and develops, but also to see, tropes, elements, themes, to kind of talk more about it. And for example, to me, if you're kind of one of those people who, you've heard about Ali Hazelwood, but you haven't read a book by Ali Hazelwood, or you've heard about X author, but you haven't read a book from that author, this to me is kind of like, let's chat about all of the author's books so far, and let's chat about what you can expect, what are my thoughts. And so this is an excuse, I guess, for me to talk about an author's books. I like to do this when I can read all of the author's books that have been published so far, which is why I'm talking about Ali Hazelwood right now. And the Emily Henry ones, I'm only going to talk about the adult romance books. So that's kind of my idea for the series going forward. Let me know quickly down below what other authors you want me to chat about. But I love this idea of being able to talk about it, because also I feel like if you've read a lot of these books, if you've read one of the authors, maybe if you really love it, you'll continue reading the author. So I would really love to chat about all of these different books in the Ali Hazelwood universe. These are just me wanting to chat about books that I like, things that are bothering me, tropes I don't like. This is not me being like, don't ever read these books, right? This is not the purpose of the video. The purpose of the video is to kind of chat about this with other people who have read it, so we can be like, oh yeah, I liked this in this book, and this in another book, I didn't like this, and what would kind of come together to make our perfect book in terms of one author's specific work. So first of all, I'm going to be talking about, first off, my favorite and least favorite of an author's books. That's going to be the first component of what this video series will be. What's my favorite and what's my least favorite? My favorite has to be Check and Mate. My least favorite has to be probably The Love Hypothesis. So I'm going to just chat a little bit why I really loved Check and Mate and why I didn't really love The Love Hypothesis. For me, I loved the interactions between Check and Mate a lot, and I'm going to chat a little bit about it when I go into my second section, where I'm going to be talking about favorite characters, least favorite characters, favorite love interests, all of those different things. But the Check and Mate to me was just like the perfect storm. I don't know if it's because I really enjoyed the Queen's Gambit, and so that's why I really loved Check and Mate. But to me, I really loved kind of the chess world in it. I don't think I've read another romance book that has the chess world into it. Also, Check and Mate to me was kind of like this book between YA and this book between adult. It was kind of like new adult in terms of the age group, but honestly, it felt very much like reading just any other one of Ali Hazelwood's romance stories because of the age group. Like, it didn't feel like a teen because the person really wasn't a teen. They were older than that. And so for me, what I guess ended up selling me in terms of why I liked this book so much as a whole was the chess. I liked also that it talks about kind of family history, family responsibility. I loved the family interactions in Check and Mate. I loved her family characters and her sister dynamics, the way that she also feels like she has to be kind of the mother to the family and also with her mom around. So all of that really made me enjoy Check and Mate a lot, and I also liked the love interest in Check and Mate. And my least favorite was The Love Hypothesis. And for me, the Love Hypothesis is the first book of the series, or the first book in the Ali Hazelwood-verse. And I think I had heard a lot about this book before reading it, and since then, I've had a lot of time to kind of think about how I feel about it. Specifically, after I read Love on the Brain, I was able to think about how I liked The Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain, because there's like some Easter eggs between them. They're kind of in the similar academia STEM universe. And so The Love Hypothesis to me has kind of just paled in comparison to how I feel about Ali Hazelwood's works since then. For example, when I first read The Love Hypothesis, I thought it was good. I thought it was fun. I mean, overall, I just think that Ali Hazelwood's books are just fun. And so when I first read The Love Hypothesis, that was my main reaction. I just thought this was a really fun book. I love the idea of STEM romances. That's like that premise alone will just get me to pick up a book immediately. And so I liked that. Also, like, look, it was also just an Adam Driver, a fun Adam Driver moment of a time. But then I read the Love on the Brain, the second book in the Ali Hazelwood-verse, and I definitely realized, okay, I actually really like Love on the Brain more. I like the main character of Love on the Brain more than in the Love Hypothesis, and it just started to make me realize, oh, I actually like a lot of the things in this book more than I liked that one. And so I think that if I went through and kind of ranked them, which I didn't for the purposes of this video, but I can at the very end, that'll be a nice way to tie it together. This kind of just ended up always getting pushed to the bottom, essentially. So now I want to talk about favorite characters and least favorite characters, I guess. I want to first start off with my favorite heroine, and maybe it's because I've so recently I tried and not have my favorite heroine, favorite love interest be the same as the favorite book pick. So maybe that's a factor. Secondly, I just finished reading Bride last month, so maybe that's a second factor. But it might be Misery. First of all, what is that name? And so, I mean, the name Misery. Let's just take a second. I don't even... In my mind, I don't even remember why. I mean, maybe there obviously has to be a reason why this person was called Misery. But I think what I really liked about Misery, which pains me to utter, that I really felt that the main character, Misery's relationship with her best friend, humanized Misery a lot, considering that she's a vampire. I just felt like Bride was one of those books, which was also just fun. All the Ali Hazelwood books are fun, but Bride to me, I read a lot of fantasy, and so Bride to me just felt like a fantasy fun little romp, while also there were some things that I didn't really like about it. But just Misery's kind of that grumpy, I feel like of all the heroines in the Ali Hazelwood verse, Misery is by far the grumpiest one of them all. I feel like a lot of them have been leaning more towards sunshiny. I'm more of a grumpy person, and so for me, Misery's character had that oh, I don't like children, but this one adorable kid just keeps getting under my skin, and maybe I actually care about her. If you like that kind of character, then that was definitely Misery. And I just felt that my inner grump was kind of resonated in Misery. So that might be one of my favorite heroines. My favorite love interest is definitely Check and Mate, because honestly, there were some parts of the Check and Mate heroine which I could not get behind. There were just some parts that were just so different from who I am as a person, and I think that's another thing, right? All of these opinions are subjective, but some of the sort of pieces of the heroine in Check and Mate I could not get behind for half of the book, honestly. But the love interest in Check and Mate was 100% my favorite. Honestly, no competition. He was just so straightforward. His feelings were on the page, and he stood behind it. I felt like in most of the other love interests in the Ali Hazelwood universe have been kind of stale, in the sense that they, to me, first of all, the love interests in the Love Hypothesis and Love on the Brain just basically were just like Adam Driver, right? They just basically were very stoic. There's maybe something going on behind this, but you're not really sure. And then their feelings are slowly revealed to them. They are also very grumpy, and you're never really sure where you stand with them. But the love interest in Check and Mate, 100%. He is making no mystery about where he feels, and that just felt so refreshing to me, especially since at this point I had read 3 different love interests in so far in the Ali Hazelwood verse. Like, he just felt like a breath of fresh air to me. This is a character I really like. And so he's definitely my favorite love interest. And that brings me to kind of what are some of my problems with these characters, or with some of the different characters in the Ali Hazelwood universe. And it's one of them is that I felt like in Love Theoretically, Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, all of those love interests felt the same to me, or felt very, very similar. And this also might be the fact that I listen to a lot of these Ali Hazelwood books on audiobook, and it tends to be the same audiobook narrator. And so maybe that's also helping them kind of all mesh into one in my mind. But also, they're very similar. They're very much like kind of like that archetype, or that person that I just mentioned. And that's totally fine, because if you love that, you will just eat these books up, because it is very much this kind of dynamic, or this kind of grumpier personality that like is acting, has those actions speak louder than words, has these actions to show that they care and to show that they are invested, but like are, you know, behind a bunch of different layers of, are we really sure? I don't really know. Do you actually really like me, kind of thing. And for me, that's just not really what I'm looking for in a love interest character. And so for the other books, The Love Hypothesis, A Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically, I was kind of really letting the heroine take the work for me. And I think I liked, funnily, because of the Easter eggs, I like the main love interest of The Love Hypothesis better in Love on the Brain, and how we actually see them interact once we understand who that character is. It just takes a really long time for, historically, in the Hazelwood universe, to understand the love interests. And for me, I just wasn't about that. Also, okay, I hate the miscommunication trope. Like, with a burning passion, I hate the miscommunication trope. It just is not for me. I honestly can't think of a book in which it's worked for me. I really don't like it. And so, for example, the miscommunication trope in Love Theoretically just shot it down to the end of the list for me. I just can't stand it as a person, mostly because maybe there's nothing I sort of can't stand more in my own real person life as the miscommunication trope. I'm always kind of like, I want people to understand what I'm saying, and for them to understand how I feel about things. And when that miscommunication starts happening, that anxiety will keep me up, like literally from sleeping. I just cannot stand it. And so reading the miscommunication trope in these, you know, in the Hazelwood universe, specifically in Love Theoretically, and honestly also in Bride, it takes me out. Like, it just takes it out of the running for me. In Bride as well, I felt like it has it as well, not to the same extent as Love Theoretically, but also in Bride, where you're just like, come on, don't you understand? Like, you're a very intelligent, supposedly vampire. Like, don't you get it? You just want to shake them. You just want to shake these characters. And so if you love the miscommunication trope, you'll definitely love those two books, because they have that. In Love Theoretically, as I mentioned, it's a lot stronger than in Bride, but you have to like that trope. And if you like that trope, then you will like those books. But for me, I don't like that trope. And so it was hard, honestly, for me in those books. Since Bride is the most recent of the Hazelwood universe, I just want to chat a little bit about it, mostly because I've kind of alluded to it. There aren't as many reviews, or aren't as many things about Bride as there will be for the other books, because they've been out for a while. But for me, for Bride, look, it was fun. I like the supernatural element to it. I liked that the whole like nodding phenomenon was explained to me more in this book than it was in other previous books which I've read, which I literally had to do a bunch of Googling for those ones because I didn't understand. But Bride explains it more, and so I appreciated that. I liked the supernatural idea of the humans, vampires, and werewolves, but in general, I just felt like the history of those three interactions, those three factions, I guess, wasn't really clear to me, in the way that I didn't really understand how it happened like that. So that kind of irked me a little bit from a world building perspective. What I liked the most about Misery were bits that you could see in her interactions with other characters and not always so much the character introspection in Misery. In general, I felt like of the Ali Hazelwood books, this is kind of the sparsest for me in terms of character introspection. For example, the heroine in Check and Mate has a lot of character introspection, a lot of character thoughts, which is honestly might relate more to sort of Misery's character in Bride as a whole. But I mentioned this a little bit before. Even though Lo, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Lo to me didn't feel as much cookie cutter, sort of cut and copy as, for example, the love interests in Love Hypothesis, Love on the Brain, and Love Theoretically. I didn't understand this man at all. Like, he felt so unfortunately bland to me in the sense that I don't understand any of his hobbies. He just was a character that I didn't really get to know, and because of that, I didn't really get to know their romance, their vibe, right? I really, really was kind of just begging, give me more information about this man. Give me more character traits, more personality traits. Just give me more to like about him. Not in the sense that I don't like him, but in the sense that I don't know him enough to like him. I don't know him enough to fall in love with him. And so, to me, that was frustrating. As I said as well, there's a slight sort of permutation of the miscommunication trope in Bride as well, which wasn't my thing. I want to end this now with me, I guess, ranking them. And so really, really quickly in this, I'm just going to make the ranking in my head. So as I mentioned in this video, Love Theoretically is like definitely at the end, right? And we know that Check and Mate is definitely at the top. But let's just do, I really loved Love on the Brain's kind of what would Marie Curie do. I love that idea. So let's do Love on the Brain as my second pick. Then we're going to do Love Hypothesis, and then we'll do Bride. So that's kind of my feelings about it. So we have, to reiterate, Check and Mate, Love on the Brain, Love Hypothesis, Bride, Love Theoretically at the end for the reasons I've said before. I do want to say very quickly as a caveat, in Love Theoretically, I really did enjoy the fact that we're talking about academia and how underpaid it is and how messed up a lot of ways academia is. That was my favorite element of Love Theoretically. In general, what I appreciate about the Ali Hazelwood books is that each one of them is talking about a lot of issues I feel very strongly about, right? The gender inequality within STEM field. I loved reading about that in Love on the Brain and the Love Hypothesis, about the ways that women have to fight to have a say and to be seen, to have credit. That was totally amazing. And that's honestly one of the reasons I picked this up. In Love Theoretically, I just mentioned that. And in Check and Mate specifically as well, it's also about the gender inequality within the chess field and the ways that how we gender representation, for example, in how we dress in the chess world, also affects how we are seen and how coverage is about us, right? So I love those kind of premises to it, and the real world kind of connections between it. And those are the reasons why I continuously kind of fall into the Ali Hazelwood universe. If you would ask me, would I continue reading Ali Hazelwood books? Yes. They're fun. Even in the parts where I want to tear my hair out and kind of shake people a lot, I still end up being like, this was fun, right? This is a book which it was easy to get into. The romance is always there. There's great spice in these books. And in general, they're just overall fun. It's just, are there some aspects that kind of irk me? Yes. Are there some aspects that I love more than others? Yes. So this is the comprehensive guide to my feelings about the Ali Hazelwood universe as it is now. And I'm excited to do more of these videos in this series. As I mentioned before, also let me know down below some authors that you want me to chat about. I already know that the Emily Henry one is going to be an interesting conversation to have, based on how I feel about Happy Place. So I hope that I'll see you in the next video, and I hope you have a really great rest of your day. Bye.